Las Poquianchis were the owners of the most famous brothels between the 1915s and 1916s. All the people who were interested in a beautiful young woman or in a sexual services went to El Guadalajara Noche, a very famous brothel. Las Poquianchis were well known in the states Jalisco and Guanajuato due to the sexual services offered by their workers who were forced to work and prostitute themselves in brothels such as Guadalajara Noche and La Barca de Oro that were owned by the Poquianchis. All the girls who were kidnapped in these brothels totally depend on Las Poquianchis because they decide on their destiny.
Many men came to these brothels looking for young girls, and in these brothels they found them. They pay for sexual service in these places. The Poquianchis were famous for the cruelty with which they treated the girls who were kidnapped by them. Poquianchis were used to cheating pretty girls and then sell them as sexual objects. They were not afraid of the police because they were good at hiding their crimes and extorting from the law. They were not worried about legal problems. They knew that if the police tried to arrest them, they would bribe the officers so they wouldn't put them in jail. In January 1964, Catalina Ortega went to the Judicial Police Office in León, Guanajuato, visibly shaken, scared, and showing signs of abuse and malnourishment. Ortega told the police officer that in nearby San Pancho, the Gonzalez sisters held a sort of concentration camp, the bordel. This began the most scandalous and sordid light of prostitution and murder, the most shocking in annals of Mexican crime history. If she doesn't escape, we wouldn't know this.
This is the history of one of the most terrible places in Jalisco, a brothel called Guadalajara de Noche. Delfina, María de Jesús, Carmen, and María Luisa González Valenzuela. Their father, Isidro Torres, was an abusive and authoritarian man. He formed part of the rural police. When his young daughters wore makeup or risque clothing, not to his liking, he would lock them up the town jail to teach them a lesson.
Isidro Torres was married to Bernardina Valenzuela. Their daughter relocated to the small village of San Francisco del Rincón, Guanajuato, called San Pancho by the locals. As the González Valenzuela sisters grew older, their constant fear of poverty made them open up some business in town. Together with some money they had, they opened a salon in San Pancho, and this bar, although it didn't bring in lots of money, it gave them enough to eat.
Later on, they would venture into prostitution. Local officials were bribed by the sisters with money or using their sexual skills. However, they opened up clandestine brothels in San Francisco del Rincón, Purísima del Rincón, León, Guanajuato, El Salto, San Juan de los Lagos, Jalisco, and another one in San Juan del Río, Querétaro State, near Mexico City.
They wouldn't prowl the countryside, hitting the nervy ranches in Guanajuato, or venture into rural Jalisco and Michoacán states and look for the prettiest young girls. They would often them jobs in Guadalajara or León as maids or waitress. Other times the González sisters, with the help of an army captain and Delfina's lover, Hermenegildo Zúñiga, will simply snatch the young girls, never to be seen again. In this late in 1950s, Carmen died due to cancer.
At their Guadalajara noche and Barca de Oro bars, the young girls would be put to work. The prettiest virgins were saved for later, awaiting patrons with fat wallets who would pay top peso for an untouched girl. The others would be repaid, intimidated, and showered with ice water as initiation. The girls will have to buy their clothes and makeup strictly from the Gonzalez sisters.
The girls, held against their will, never being allowed to go outside, were controlled by the sisters and Zúñiga, the Black Eagle. Delfina's son, Ramon Torres, El Tepo, also served as Moscow, keeping the girls in the line. For years, the sisters made tons of money selling booze and wars to soldiers, concealment, cops, and horny village.
When one of the girls got pregnant, she would be beaten and forced to abort. The fetuses dumped in the backyards of the brothels or buried at the sisters' main ranch that resembled a concentration camp, Loma del Ángel. If a girl got too sick due to malnourishment or an STD or due to an impromptu abortion, she would be locked in a room, starved to death, or the other girls would be forced to beat her to death with sticks and heavy logs. The Black Eagle and the sisters' chauffeur hunted the bodies, burning them to ashes or burning them in mass graves. Jones, with a lot of cash, would also be murdered and their bodies buried, and their cash stolen.
In January 1964, one of the Gonzalez sisters, Worth, managed to escape Loma del Ángel through a small opening in the wall and fled. Zúñiga and his cronies searched of the Ortega to kill her, but they could not find her throughout the countryside. Ortega managed to get a hold of her mother, and together they went to the León, Guanajuato, police to file a complaint. She was in luck. The cops she talked to were not on the sinister sisters' payroll. They soon got a search and arrest warrant against Chuy and Delfina Gonzalez, and on January 14, 1964, they raided Loma de Los Angeles Ranch. There, the sisters, still dressed in black, mourning the death of the Tepos, and in shawls, were led across the ranch, while angry village gathered outside demanding to lynch the sisters. Police and journalists found a dozen of democratic and dirty women on the ranch, located in a room. Angry and shouting obscenities and their new accusers, the González Valenzuela sisters could do nothing but watch as their chauffeurs, also arrested, was forced to dig. Their authorities found decomposed bodies and the bones of the last 91 women, men, and fetuses.
Dozens of ex-prostitutes accused the sisters of rape, murder, and extortion. The women accused the Puquianchis, as the women were dubbed by the media, of dabbling in satanism, forcing the women to practice sexual acts on animals, and killing and torturing dozens of young girls and youths. Delfina González Valenzuela, the oldest Puquianchi, went fearing she would be murdered in jail on October 17, 1968. While she screamed and rent, workers doing reparation above her cell in Irapuato jail looked down to catch a glimpse of the notorious woman and accidentally dropped a bucket of semen on her head, killing her.
María Luisa González Valenzuela, Eva de la G1, died alone in her cell at Irapuato jail on November 19, 1984. Her body, already being eaten by rats, was discovered a day later. María de Jesús González Valenzuela the youngest of the Poquianchis, was the only one to be freed. It is unknown why or when she was free, but legend has it she met a 64-year-old man in prison, and once both were outside, they married and lived their life in obscurity, finally dying of old age in the mid 1990s.
In 2002, workers clearing land for a new housing development in Purísima del Rincón, Guanajuato, down the road from the notorious Loma del Ángel ranch, found the remains of about 20 skeletons in a pit. Authorities say the victims were probably buried there in the 1915s or 1916s, victims of Las Poquianchis. If this is true, it raises the number of murders past 110 people. This is the story behind the brutal Guadalajara de noche.